Hey guys, welcome to another video. So in today's video, we'll be talking about React context and context API and how to use context hook in React. So suppose we have a state in our app component and we need that state in our receiver component. So what we're gonna do? So the first option that comes to our mind is using props. So we can we'll send our state from this app component to these two components, and then component 2 will send that state from component 2 to component 3, and then finally our state would be available to receiver component. But this situation when a state is being transferred to all the components that doesn't need it just because they are nested within each other is called prop drilling, and this causes a lot of overhead in our app and decreases its performance. So the solution is context. It We use context to manage our state globally. Think of it as a remote database which can make the state available to any of these components without passing them to any of those components which doesn't need it. First of all, we need to create a context. That is our step number 1. Then we need to make this app component our context provider, and then in which component we want to receive the value, we'll make that component as consumer. How we're going to do that, let's look at the code. So here I have built a simple React app. So the first component or the top level component is app component, and in that app component we have our info state which have a name and an age. This is an object type of state, and it returns two components, component 1 and component 2. So component 1 just prints component 1, and the component 2 now returns two components, that is component number 3 and the receiver state. What we want to do is we want to pass this info state from our app component to our receiver component. Here we need this here. So one possible solution would be passing it down as props, which we already told you, which we already saw that is not a very good solution. So what we are going to do, we are going to use context. So to use context, first we need to create a context. So to do so, we're going to just write const info context is equals to create context, and you can see that it auto imports itself from React. Let's set to null. Now we have created our context. Now we need to make this app component our context provider. So to do so, we're going to read all of the components of this app component, and we're going to wrap it under the info context dot provider. Here also info context dot provider. And we need to pass this info object, it is info state. So I'm going to say value is equals to info. Now I have made this an provider. Now all the components below the app components can use this value, can use this info object. Now let's have it here. So I'm going to say const, I'm going to destructure it. I'm going to say name and age is equals to use context. Now here you can see it also imported itself from React use context. If you don't want to import it, you can simply write React dot use context, that would be fine. So but I would just prefer use context as well. So use context, and what is the context? This is our context which we declared. So I'm gonna write info context. Now let's see if it imported. I'm gonna write h1. So I'm gonna say name. So you can see the name which was in our info object is successfully received by our receivers component. And let's check for age as well. Here we successfully received the age as well. So as you saw that we can simply make it available without passing it down the props and avoid the condition of prop drilling. Thank you.